I was doing a pup walk. But then I saw a little dog running around without their person, so I finished taking my dogs home and came out to find the little dog, but it must have gone back into its yard. At least I hope it did. But anyway, so how about just a little walk and conversation? Listening to a podcast on the walk, and as I like to do, and it was raining. That's the other reason I didn't pull my camera out. It's calmed down finally with my raincoat. That's my politics. I love rainbows. I've loved rainbows since the dawn of man. No, I came out of the womb loving rainbows, and I had rainbows and shit, just stickers, just colorful stickers on the back of my Jeep before it was wrecked, and put it on Reddit for reasons. And people are like, why are you advertising your sexuality on your vehicle? And it's like, it's when our rainbows advertising our sexuality. This I would call that pridey, and I am proud. I'm queer, and I say y'all, and I'm a military family. I never served, but born and raised in a military family. My dad was military from before I was born until he worked doing stuff, contract work, but it was all still related. It was all still government stuff. So I'd say I earned the camo, and I'm trans. I'm non-binary. I'm the in the middle kind of bitch that I've always been very gender fluid, and it just took until recently until I learned the language for that. Anyway, and I'm going to avoid going inside. I'm enjoying being outside. It's lovely. I've always been this way. Actually, I'm wearing this shirt that I had in high school. It was for Sadie Hawkins, senior year, and it was just making me think of the high school that I went to was this art school, and I was a choir major, but it was so it's called Las Vegas Academy. You can look it up. I don't live down there anymore, but the nickname for our school around Vegas was LV Gay, because we were very gay, very queer friendly school before we had a lot of language for it, because I graduated in 2005. Where was I in 9/11? Freshman year careers class. That's where I was on 9/11. Anyway, so this was long before the conversation was so open as it is now, and I love that we were called LV Gay. You know, it's probably why I was able to kind of break free from the religious conditioning, being raised LDS, Mormon, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, whatever you want to call it. I'm still technically a member. I'm just defunct. Not practicing, I would say. Culturally, a very Mormon. I was a very devout Mormon for a very long time. That being said, I spent time with people of all types, and as a young person, and it really set the stage for the type of adult I became. And part of why I get in trouble in Utah sometimes with institutions, people generally are not nearly as unkind as entrenched institutions, but I didn't know I was queer. I didn't recognize it, but looking back, there was signs. There was like there was a lot of gay boys. It was like cool to be gay, but there wasn't a lot of out like lesbians, and I didn't even know what bisexuality was until I was an adult. Like, it just wasn't it wasn't talked about. And I knew about transgender only a little, and not in a good way. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stigma around. There still is, but at least now people are having real conversations about it. But I always knew I wasn't I think I mentioned this in a previous video. I always knew I wasn't a girl, if that makes sense. I never fit. The gender never fit right. And I like to say, before I hit puberty, I was a little boy. I mean, I dressed like a little girl. My mom made my clothes. This is how we were poor. But also my mom came out of the 70s where she sewed her own clothes, and she made our clothes growing up a lot until she was working full time and then didn't have time anymore. But so it's not that I didn't wear girl clothes and do girly things, but I was into music. I was a vocalist. I did a lot of singing and stuff. But other than that, I didn't do a lot of girly things. I like painting my nails. Still like painting my nails, not my fingernails. They don't stay painted, but I paint my toenails. And mostly I had rough and tumble friends. A lot of them were boys. I still to this day spend more time with guy friends than with lady friends. And I don't know why that is. My closest lady friends, my closest femme friends, don't live close. And so we don't get to see each other very often. And that's part of it. But even then, I always hung out with boys. I would be considered a tomboy back then, you know. And as I got older and puberty started hitting, I didn't fit in. And I think it's hard. I don't have a lot of memory. And this is childhood trauma. This is stuff I'll talk about this sometime. But I don't have a lot of memories from puberty era, you know, 5th through 8th grade. I don't have a lot of access to those memories. And a lot of that is because my dad was at his worst mental health wise, unaliving. I don't want to get into that right now. And there was a lot of chaos and tumult in my life during that time. But what I do remember is having a lot of friends in like 5th and 6th grade, and we were still in Utah at the time. It was before we moved to Las Vegas, and we were in Utah County, which is the Utahest of Utahs. People know about Utah County now because a certain talking head was shot in Utah County very recently. And so maybe you've heard, but it's a very conservative, very LDS dominated county. It's like the most of a conservative state. It's like the most conservative spot. It's like conservative concentrate. Anyway, I didn't fit in very well. And looking back now, I recognize that I was autistic. I was an ADHD kid. I struggled with the social stuff. You couldn't double dog dare me to do anything. If I didn't want to do it, I just wouldn't do it. Social pressure didn't work on me. Still doesn't. Gets me in trouble, but it doesn't work on me. And there's that thing called PDA. I forget what it stands for, but it's basically I won't be told what to do. It doesn't work. You can't tell me what to do. I can choose to do what you want, but you can't coerce me. Anyway, and I didn't fit in super well with when you start going through puberty developmentally. You're supposed to start giving a shit about your peers. It's very socially common, and I wasn't good at that. When we moved to Vegas, though, I started learning how to perform differently. And I had a much better amount of friends in Las Vegas. Weirdly enough, kids were more accepting of my oddities. I don't really know. Again, I don't have a lot of memory from that time. I'm really good at recall, but I don't have, it's trauma. A lot of it's gone. Anyway, but as I got older and once I hit high school, I started to learn how to perform femininity. And I was going to this art school, so I had the capacity to kind of express my gender in different ways. I wore vests and ties. I love wearing a little tie with a vest, like I'd wear my baggy pajama pants, and a tight t-shirt. Like I learned the rule of I'm doing it right now. You can't see it. Here, I'll show you. Baggy and tight, the balance. But let's show you the shirt. It was from Sadie Hawkins. I got these Dickie pants and this t-shirt that's too small. It was too small when I got it. Can you see? 05. Anyway, and it's a really booby shirt. My date was, funnily enough, I did ask a couple of guys. I think I was rejected by 3 different guys before my friend just set me up with her cousin. So my Sadie Hawkins senior year was a setup. I'm a dork. I didn't have my first kiss till I was 19. I'm a demi when it comes to sexuality, demisexual, as in like I have to actually know you and have like an emotional, intellectual kind of connection before and you have to be attracted to me. I have to know you're attracted to me before I'm interested in you. It's like, it's easy when I'm a little Mormon kid and you're not supposed to be like sexual at all. It made it a lot easier, but once I did start dating, it was still hard. But anyway, but I'm just like, I was learning gender expression in a queer environment, and the type of kids that I wanted to emulate were often the guys. Like the dirty chucks. This was a grungy era of dressing, but like that kind of combo of like jeans, like formal wear and informal wear in a combo. It's starting to rain again. I like being outside when it rains. I like the rain. I always have. It doesn't always like my body, but I like it. Anyway, rain gives us rainbows. I've always loved rain. So a lot of my gender expression in high school and then my first couple of years of college were also down in Vegas and at UNLV. And I found like a look that I liked, and I was still kind of cultivating it. And then I moved to Utah and got married and worked in education, and I had to dress a certain way to fit in. I was performing femininity again, but in a much more rigid, gendered rigid environment, because being a Mormon in Vegas is one thing, being a Mormon in Utah is significantly different. So anyway, I eventually, just kind of lost my sense of self and style for a while. A lot of it has to do with the people I was with. I had an abusive ex. My first husband was abusive and isolated me and kept me from making long-term friends in really covert ways. It's complicated. I can talk that story sometime. Let me know if you want to hear that kind of depressing shit. But and I just didn't fit in with the people at church, so I wasn't making friends there. I didn't want kids. I had a career. I was the one going to school, not my husband. There's a lot of ways to perform femininity in Utah that I never ever did. Not ever. And so it became, once I got through my divorce, it was traumatizing and it broke me down, but I needed that breakdown to set me free. And that's when I stopped attending that church and started exploring my sense of self. And this is 2017, so social media, I've been on Facebook since 2005, when you needed a college email to get on there. So I'm like Facebook old, I had a MySpace too. Whatever, anyway. But social media got better at creating spaces where I could learn more about people like me, because where I've been, there weren't. And if there were, they were in hiding, like me. You had to mask to keep your job. You can't be a queer educator in Utah without having a target painted on your back. It's gotten even worse. It's one of the biggest reasons I quit education altogether, besides my health, was that I figured I was just going to end up getting fired anyway. Because I wear earrings like this. And because I used kids' preferred pronouns. Because they told me them. And so I did. And because I used kids' preferred names, because it made them safe in my class. And if you ask my students who needed that, not that you'd find them, but if you found me, hi. I hope, and I was told, that they felt safe in my class. And I think the evidence of that is that I saved a lot of kids. They would come and tell me when they were in danger. They would come and tell me when they were in a bad mental health place. They would come and tell me if they were being abused. So when I say I was a safe teacher, the reason why kids knew I was safe was because I did things like respect their names and their pronouns. And I controlled the vibes in my classroom. People were not allowed to insult each other and things like that. I practiced apologies and accountability. We did social emotional lessons that showed that we can disagree without being unkind, and mindfulness practice and all this. Honestly, I was a great fucking teacher, and kids were safe in my class, and I feel great saying that. And all of that to say, I spoke to somebody today who gave me hope in getting back into education in Utah again, that maybe there's a way I could do it, and it may not go anywhere, but it gave me hope that there might be space for people like me, kids who feel safe with people like me, in a state that is getting increasingly more dangerous for people like me. And I mean that very literally. I mean that incredibly literally. Yes, there's a lot of progress happening in Utah. The demographics, like political demographics, are shifting. Empathy is growing. People are actually leaving. The LDS Church is hemorrhaging membership. Whatever they report their numbers as, don't look at non-LDS statistics, people who do the polling and statistics, and you'll see what I mean. A lot of people still on the roster but not practicing anymore, that kind of stuff. Not that you can't be an ally and be LDS. You really can't. Some of people who are my best supporters are still practicing LDS people. My mom died active and honorable member, or on doing everything right for the church, and loved me as I am. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that there's, in the administration, in the institution, not the people, there's a lot of institutionalized abuse towards people like me, and historical abuse towards people like me. And they have an unfair amount of control in local government. I say unfair. You can say that's my opinion. It is my opinion, but also look up the legal gerrymandering in the state and look at how the legislative branch in Utah, our representatives, do not represent the demographics of this state. And I mean that politically, but also like ethnically and like culturally, we are not well represented. And so it's another reason I got out of education, is because I recognized I wouldn't be able to change education from the inside. I would not be able to fix what I needed to, what I want to see fixed. And I'm talking access for impoverished kids to food and technology and all the supports they need, and class sizes. Did you know that I was teaching 7th grade classes with 35 to 40 kids in it? That's too many. It shouldn't be more than 20 in a 7th grade class. Look up education science. Look up pedagogical research. Don't just look up what class size standards and caps are in the states, because they fuck that shit up all the time for financial reasons. The standard for Elementary school is like elementary age classes. Kindergarten shouldn't be more than like 10. I don't have the numbers memorized, but there's research on like effectiveness in education on class sizes. And junior high shouldn't be more than like 20 to 25. High school, 20 to 25. You really shouldn't be going above 25 in a classroom if you want to have actual like youth learning how to learn. What's the point of public education for our children? It's not to teach them math and history and English and science and music and physical education. It's not to teach them those specific disciplines per se. It's to teach them how to learn those things so that they can go forth into the world and be learners. All public education is supposed to do is get you started, is to expose you to things that you wouldn't have exposure to in your home. It's to teach you how the basics of coding and web design and the basics of music and music theory and the basics of primary source analysis and document analysis and the basics of analyzing fictional and poetic and other types of text and the basics of breaking down the natural laws of the world in mathematical terms and the basics of understanding, the way the functions and the natural laws around us and the way that chemistry and physics and biology and all that works. It's just supposed to get you started because we're supposed to be lifelong learners. Pedagogy is the science of educating others. There is research involved. There is anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a literal social science, and I have 3 degrees in that, okay? And so when I tell you that public educators are not doing real pedagogy, I mean that because they are handicapped by the administration, by the bureaucracy, by the lack of funding, by the oversized classrooms, by laws that prevent us from having safe, healthy environments, because the science backs me up. If you create a classroom that is inclusive, that is diverse, that has equity in it, those things that trigger certain groups of people you can call me woke all you want. I love it. I think woke is a great term for what this is, being aware of your oppression. Because the bureaucracy, the government that is running education in Utah and a lot of places around the United States generally are handicapping actual pedagogical science. And educators should be paid sufficiently that they are continuing to do social science research all the time so that education evolves with every generation of kid that comes out. They have different needs. Education needs to be able to evolve, and the only way to do that is to pay and support the educators who are the scientists so that they can actually do the science of education and improve their classroom practice as the research improves their understanding of this new generation. We should not be running schools the way we did 50 years ago. In fact, we aren't even running schools. We're running schools worse than we did 50 years ago because class sizes have gone up and the start times for adolescents should be way later. My mom went to high school at 9 in the morning. Why are high schoolers going to school at 7 in the morning when science shows that adolescents naturally have a later circadian rhythm, which is evolutionary? Young people being awake later in the night makes sense because they have young eyes and they're better for keeping watch in the nighttime and doing stuff at night. Whatever, it doesn't matter. They should be starting school later, getting out of school later, and sleeping more. Schools should be reflecting the technology advancements and the needs of the kids we have today. Schools should be hybrid. There should be some in-person instruction. We need that social interaction. We need time with our peers. The kids need time to play and hang out. But you should be having like a class conversation, a lesson of some kind, and then an hour of kids doing their own thing. And then you can have the next class. And I would I would completely deconstruct education, destroy it as it stands, and rebuild it. And I'm hoping I get that chance. Maybe I will. I don't know. We'll see. I am still licensed to be an administrator in the state of Utah. I went online to check today because I was having this conversation with this person, and I was like, "Oh no, I could be a principal. I'm licensed by the state of Utah, and it doesn't expire." So, I've got my credentials on the Utah Cactus website. If you need to look me up, you can. I don't know where you'd look me up. So, why did I say all this? I don't know. I want to see the world change for the better. I want to heal society. I want to help. I want to take people who had a conservative background like I did, but who want empathy and kindness to be their guide. I want you to find a safe place with me to learn how to be that person. I consider myself a centrist, not a leftist, not a rightist. But we don't have a lot of leftism in actual leftism is not, it's starting to grow as a movement in the United States. But politically speaking, Democrats are really about center. And they're really more like conservative leaning centrists. It's the whole thing. I'm not making this up, and I'm not the expert on this. I'm not a poli-scientist, a political scientist. I'd find somebody who's more versed in that to learn more about what that means. But I consider myself to the left of a lot of Democrats, if you're talking about that political spectrum, but I still consider myself a centrist, central progressive. And I want to heal the fucking planet. I want humans to do what our intended evolutionary spot, our job on the evolutionary, what's the word I'm looking for? Hierarchy is the wrong word. We have a place in the ecosystem. That's the word I'm looking for. The humans evolved for a specific purpose, in my opinion, and based on the things that I know from studying human evolution and development for 300,000 years. I have a little bit of knowledge in all of it. We evolved to be the brain of the planet, to solve problems, to resolve climate issues, to save endangered species, to bring balance to the planet. We are part of nature, and when you look at cultures that are indigenous to areas around the globe, and again, this is not just one place, this is something I've looked at all over. When you look at the ways that people engage with who have indigenously evolved in a location, the most successful communities and cultures, number one, performed cultural community support, like what I like to call village economics, the sharing, the supporting, division of labor, specialization, that kind of stuff. And they evolved to work as part of their ecosystems. If you look at the cultures of California, the indigenous cultures to California, like Northern California where the big trees and stuff are, and like Oregon, that kind of where the redwoods and the cedars and all those really big trees are from, they learned how to do controlled burning, which makes sense because the seed of the trees like the redwood have to I have a little buggy on me. That's fine. Anyway, have to burn in order to germinate. And controlled burning actually kept and maintained the forests in a much safer way. And now we have wildfires that go out of control and kill people and destroy property because, do the math. Who's in charge now? When white settlement showed up to... Did you leave, Buggy? When white settlers came to settle on the East Coast to what would eventually become the 13 original colonies in U.S. history, they came and saw, in the New England area, I can't remember where it was specifically, but New England area, they saw the forests over there were different. They were the trees were kind of well spaced. There was room to, like, in a lot of areas, there was room to pull a fucking carriage between the trees. And they're like, it's like a park. Like in Europe, they would literally cultivate parks and take care of their agriculture. And they could recognize that it was really convenient, but they did not recognize the hand of humanity in that cultivation, and did not recognize that the indigenous cultures of that area had done it on purpose to create room for game, large animals, to run certain trails and tracks through, and they'd maintain those game populations for hundreds, thousands of years through, and developed the way the trees grew so that it was like convenient for them to hunt. And so it was like there's a lot of purpose in the way Native North American is who I'm speaking about specifically, cultures cultivated the environment around them and worked as part of the ecosystem themselves to make everybody thrive. Everything thrived. Plant, animal, life, all thrived. Because they were here for thousands of years. And I mean literally thousands of years. Look up how long native indigenous cultures to America have been here. It's tens of thousands of years. And so trial and error, of course, but there was a lot of really purposeful planning. And why am I saying all of this? Because I believe that a healthy education system is part of a healthy village economic system, community economic system, where everybody in the community is invested and involved in the education of their children. And that the educators are well provided for because the service they provide is complex and important and requires a lot of extra outside work and research. And I believe that a place that is inclusive for people like me and people of other diversities, multiculturalism is the strength of the United States. It's what makes us a unique experience around the globe. So we have the most diversity. I don't know if we're the actually most diverse nation, but if we're not the most, we're pretty close. And I mean, just literally, we have people from all over the world who have communities here. And it's our strength. And yet there's a push to eliminate that strength and replace it with vileness and weakness. And so if I can repair that so that somebody like me can come up into a school and feel safe to learn my gender expression. And do you know what I've been doing this last year and a half or so? Is reclaiming my sense of style. I'm dressing like I wanted to back in high school, but I had even less restrictions, let's say, because I'm not practicing Mormon, so I'm not worried about dress code shit, things like that. But I've re-embraced that. It was an incredibly unique experience going to a school like that and being accepted for the person I was for the first time ever. And I want to recreate that experience for our youth here in Utah. We need it. They need me, and I can do it. And all I've been looking for is the means to increase my sphere of influence and to bring myself back into education. And maybe I found it. Maybe I didn't. We'll see. But I know what direction I'm going. And this channel is a big fucking part of it, because this channel is for me reaching adults. I need to reach the hearts and minds of grown people, because y'all are the ones who vote. Y'all are the ones who sometimes have money, who can support what I do or what I want to do. And I love grassroots funding. I love the small donation movements that people are engaging in now. It's like, hey, throw me $5, the Patreon style donation, things like that. So I'll probably start that pretty soon. It's always been my intention. Do know that I do intend to not monetize. I don't want to monetize this channel per se. I want to, because I don't want to worry about advertising and stuff. But if I found businesses I supported, I could do it. But I do intend to start a Patreon and putting out like my Venmo information, things like that, so that people can volunteer to send me support, because this is, I can't pay my student loans. This expertise comes with 20 years of experience and 3 fucking degrees that cost money. So if you want to throw money my way, that'd be great. But I'm not to a place where I'm ready to set that up yet. Anyway, you need money to function. I'm hoping to get to a place where we don't have to anymore, but I've already talked about it in other videos, so I think this video is long enough. Time to go back inside and see what my dogs are chewing up. Plus, I haven't had breakfast yet. Also, I had kombucha for the first time that I liked, and I've always been wary of kombucha, but I got some, and it was really good. So I'm gonna go, and local business. God, I love supporting local businesses, and I'm just getting more and more involved. I'm loving it. Anyway, okay. So I'll talk to you later. And feel free to share in the comments, please, any thoughts about what I talked about. And if you disagree with stuff, tell me. Just disagree kindly, okay? And I don't mind engaging in a conversation with you, but we do not debate here. This is a conversation space, not a debate class. Talk to you soon.